Another time. In the age of wonder. Another world. Another time. His land was green and good.
With all the fuss over Milo Yiannopoulos yesterday, many of you may have missed that we had a little fuss in our tabletop gaming community around the same time. There's several figures in the gaming community, myself included, where anything we do becomes subjected to a laser-sharp focus of criticism by people who make the kind of bad end of the computer game social justice community look like amateurs. I mean, these people can bear a grudge for years and years and years over nothing. You may recall the fuss over 5th edition D&D, where a couple of people who this gang of miscreant social justice warriors didn't like were credited with being influential on the new edition. Amongst them, the RPG pundit and the subject of this particular fuss, Zach Smith. Zach Smith, also known as Zach Sabbath, he's the guy kind of integral, the GM responsible for D&D with Porn Stars, which was really big and raised the profile of the game and the hobby hugely a few years back, and has produced a whole bunch of award-winning work of various kinds. Vornheim, Maze the Blue Medusa, I think he was involved in. I think that was his, yeah. And various other projects and things. You know, he's won awards. He's an unconventional but good artist, good writer, good weird off-the-wall ideas, and has done huge amounts to promote and advance the hobby. So what the fuck is the fuss here? I mean, he's someone who's worked in marginalised industries. He's an artist. He's a punk. He has a semi-disabled girlfriend who he cares for to the extent that he's had her medical needs tattooed on his body in case of anything happening. He works with transgender people. He hangs out with the gay community. Works with porn stars. He's done all this wonderful, great stuff for gaming. So, and with these marginalised communities, he should surely be the kind of person that these people look up to, want to emulate, want to be like, even want to become. But no. So, what's going on, and why do they have this weird reaction to anything that he does? Well, just as with me and with other people, there's this false narrative that's been built up around him that he is a harasser and a transphobe and a homophobe and all these things, which couldn't be further from the truth in any of these cases, really, but particularly in Zach's. I think it's down to jealousy. I think he is actually living what they claim to be, and it underlines and exposes their own hypocrisy and incapability, and that they're coasting on outrage and don't seem to have any particular talent for anything. They're not really creating much, most of them. So I think that's what it comes down to. So what created this most recent fuss? Well, up until now, Zach has largely been associated with D&D, and in particular the kind of old school movement in a stylistic rather than a mechanical way. But he was then taken on board to do some work on Vampire the Masquerade, which has long been a kind of holdout or an avant-garde of this whole social justice shit in gaming. I mean, they put female gender pronouns throughout their books ages ago, something that used to drive me nuts and still does grammatically. Yeah, they've always been at this. They've always included gay characters, transgender characters, BDSM issues, sex in gaming. They've tackled controversial issues such as the mass genocide of the Jews, all in their material, all sorts of things. They're kind of like, I guess, Vertigo for RPGs in a lot of ways, particularly their Black Dog line. Anyway, so that takes him out of his little ghetto where maybe they could kind of semi-tolerate him, and puts him right smack bang in the middle of what they might consider to be their territory. And so that's where he is now. He's done work on Vampire, which he has as a storytelling game, supposedly, as being the kind of vanguard of progressive gaming in the past. I guess they view that as their territory, and they view that him being involved is somehow an invasion. So what it is, it's not even a tabletop game that it's been involved in. What it is an iPhone kind of choose your own adventure thing, and he did that in cooperation with another artist of a similar style. His name escapes me for the moment. Sarah Horrocks, who I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, is a transgender artist herself. And after this came out, she appears to have been bombarded by these social justice gamer types with all kinds of things. Well, hey, didn't you know Zach is a harasser and an abuser and a transphobe, and here's the evidence, and it's not evidence. And basically bombarding this person, harassing them, trying to get them to turn against Zach and undermine what he's doing and expose him again. In much the same way they've dogged me throughout my career over the last, I guess, 5 years now. It's absurd. And what's worse is that this has then dragged in the kind of people that you normally see involved in these kind of fusses in the computer game scene. So A Man in Black specifically is the one quoted as going after Horrocks, trying to get her to hate on Zach. The reaction is just absurd. I don't know why they do it. And given that one of the people, again, involved in all this shit is Will Wheaton, mindlessly retweeting accusations that have no foundation, and since he treated me like a dick in the past, completely transgressing his own law, it's a perfect opportunity to use this.
Shut up, Wesley!
Well, here's the thing, I don't have a particularly compelling reason to defend Zach. He's got me blocked. I still don't entirely know why. I think he bought into some of the MRA hysteria that was going around. But yeah, fair enough, I guess. The thing is, I regard Zach as being an arsehole, but he's the right kind of arsehole. You know, he lives by his code, whatever that might be. He treats people the same regardless of who or what they are. These are things that I can agree to. You know, if you're a good person in his eyes, he'll treat you well. If you're a bad person in his eyes, he'll treat you badly. But he's undergone much the same kind of experience that I have for almost as long, I suppose. And the fact is that these douche nozzles will hound you. Everything you do, everywhere you go, someone will pop up and say, in the case of Zach, you know, oh, don't you know this guy is a harassing, transphobe, bully, whatever. Even though none of this is true. Every time you're mentioned, every time you release something, every time you do something, some douche nozzle has to pop up and intervene and say that. And that seems to be what has happened in this case. He was working with this artist, and when the game was announced and released and whatever, then everyone piled on that person, and has apparently driven them out of the RPG community, which paradoxically and interestingly enough is what people like me get accused of, but I've never actually seen it happen. Zach has overreacted in some ways sometimes, but it's been in the same way that he's been attacked and overreacted to. So in the same way that whenever his name comes up, people will intervene and say horrible things about him. Whenever the names of his enemies comes up and crosses his feeds and so on, he will apparently intervene and mention them. And, you know, to a certain extent, turnabout is fair play. And it is incredibly stressful to have this happen on a consistent basis. Day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. You've always got these people doggedly and genuinely harassing you. I mean, harassment is something that goes on over a long time. When it's the same people pushing the same bullshit constantly, I think then you do genuinely cross into the territory of harassment. So what it boils down to here, I think, is that Zack isn't the monster he's been made out to be. Very few people ever are. It makes an interesting mirror in a lot of ways to other things that have been going on. Obviously it resonates with my own personal experience. I would encourage you to check into him for yourself before you jump to any conclusions. And I'd encourage you to check out his work anyway, whatever conclusions you come to, because it's good. He's a good artist, good writer, very imaginative, good for the games business as a whole. And he deserves your benefit of the doubt, and he deserves at least a fair shake. And I think anyone, me, him, James Raggy, anyone deserves that same fair shake. Don't go by what people tell you, go by what you can find out for yourself. And go check out this game as well while you're at it. Zang.